Welcome to Walking in Their Shoes. Welcome to a new episode of Walking in Their Shoes, a podcast where we invite entrepreneurs and distinguished professionals to step into their customer shoes. If you're a regular here, you know that I always begin every episode with the same introduction, an opening where I share a bit about our discussions with our guests, and I touch upon the current trend of more and more businesses shifting their approaches to put customers at the center of their efforts. Well, today I had planned to share my conversation with a seasoned entrepreneur in the private aviation field. But at the last minute, I changed my mind. Why? Because I've been receiving some feedback from previous episodes on the fact that many entrepreneurs feel overwhelmed when it comes to embracing this so-called customer-centricity approach. So in today's episode, I'm going to touch base and I'm going to delve deep into this topic and shed some light on what customer centricity really is and how can any business in any industry can embrace it. But before we get to it, I want you to watch this 1-minute clip. So turn on your volume and listen carefully.
If there's one thing Amazon.com is about, it's obsessive attention to the customer experience, end to end. And that's what those distribution centers are.
But you're not a pure internet play.
It doesn't matter to me whether we're a pure internet play. What matters to me is do we provide the best customer service. Internet, schminternet, that doesn't matter.
Well, but it does matter to your investors to know whether they're investing in a company that
No, they should be investing in a company that obsesses over customer experience. In the long term, there is never any misalignment between customer interests and shareholder interests. The number one thing that has made us successful by far is obsessive, compulsive focus on the customer. And it is a huge advantage to any company if you can stay focused on your customer instead of your competitor. So then you have to identify who is your customer. So at the Washington Post, for example, is the customer the people who buy advertisements from us? No, the customer is the reader. Full stop. The customer is the reader. And then, by the way, where do advertisers want to be? Advertisers want to be where there are readers. So it's really not that complicated. It comes around really well.
Already back in 1999, Jeff Bezos already understood that if he wanted Amazon to be the best out there, they had to adopt what he called a customer obsession model. Not a competitor obsession, not a product obsession, not a business model obsession, but a customer obsession model. A model in which all business decisions are made having the customer's best interest in mind. And well, if your company generates annual revenues around $574 billion, stacking an average of a 20 to 23% annual growth year on year for the last decade, you must be doing something right. In current times, we're witnessing more and more businesses and industries embracing this customer obsession model, most commonly known as customer centricity approach. But what exactly does customer centricity mean, and how can you apply it in your business? Something we often come across amongst our clients, regardless of their industry, is their struggle to understand and adopt this customer centricity approach. Some of them have been in the business for decades, and reinventing or redesigning their daily activities is not an easy task. Also, the larger the company, the more skeptical opinions they encounter. And if you're a business owner or a C-suite executive running this initiative and you're not convinced about this transformation in the long run, these negative voices might really, end up with your motivation or drive to follow through. When we help our clients implement this customer centricity approach in their organizations, we start by evaluating together whether their day-to-day business decisions have their customers' best interest in mind rather than what's best or most convenient for their teams. And when we say teams, we don't mean only customer-facing teams, but we also talk about the administrative or the back of the house teams. Let me share an example from my days working in hotels so you will better understand. Back in the days at the beginning of my career, I worked as a receptionist in a 5-star hotel. And we oftentimes encountered clients that were disputing charges in their final bill upon checkout. Items like minibar or Wi-Fi connections, things that were all of them like under 25 euros each. In this situation, we had the option of agreeing with the client and immediately removing that charge from their bill, or kind of confronting them and checking with the minibar team or the IT team whether that charge was correct or not. At first glance, you would say, well, the easiest and most beneficial option for all parties would be adjusting that charge immediately, that item immediately, taking it off the bill. Why? Because that would result into a happy guest, a receptionist not having to confront the guest, and a small loss for the hotel should this charge be correct. However, the reality was that for every charge or item we were adjusting from a client's bill, we had to later on, at the end of our shift, fill up have a pager form with the guest information and the reason of that adjustment. Imagine working in a hotel with almost 500 rooms. In busy days, we had like 300-400 checkouts, which meant an average of 70 to 100 checkouts per receptionist. After a long day of work, I often spent a good extra hour after my shift filling out those forms and making sure I was following the internal processes so the accounting team could have a backup for each item adjusted. Well, in fact, what that internal processes created was that receptionists didn't want to spend an extra hour at work. So they'd rather confront the client with the disputed charges, and that would end up many times in very unhappy guests. All of this could have been avoided if this internal process for adjusting disputed charges could have been more employee-friendly and, as a result, guest-friendly. The moral of this story is that there are many people in your organization that they don't even interact directly with your guests, customers, clients, but they have a tremendous impact in your customer experience by providing the best experience to their internal customers, their colleagues who are client-facing, who are facing the clients every day. So the first step to adopting this customer-centricity approach is by knowing who your customers are and understanding what their needs and expectations are. And this is why I decided to call this podcast Walking in Their Shoes. Because as an organization, as a company, you need to be willing to step into your customers' shoes by listening to them, by asking for their opinion, by making them feel part of the journey of crafting the best product or service they can find out there. When your customer experience is spot on, meaning that any interaction is carefully crafted and thought through from a client perspective, your clients will choose you over others, even if your product or service is not the best in the market or you're farther away in distance from your competitor. Why? Because they will feel looked after, valued. They will feel that they belong to something that cannot be bought with money. And when I say valued, I don't mean bribing them with points collected from their purchases, because tomorrow your competitor might double the points per purchase and you might lose all your customers. What I truly mean is thinking What can they make them feel that they belong, that there is no other business they'd rather shop at, stay in, or work with? And that's what customer centricity is all about. And shifting to this mindset will fuel your customer loyalty, and as a result, will boost your business growth to maybe and perhaps become the next Amazon. If you have enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, press the like button below, and share this episode with others who might benefit from it. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and see you on the next episode.